Day this Saturday, getting our evening games because of the Hall of Fame induction ceremony earlier this afternoon. 3 new inductees going into the 2025 class as Lacey Free Drasnick, a former dancer for Barton Community College, also Matchapol Senoun, also known as Putter, one of the golfers for Barton just a few years ago. He's inducted in the Hall of Fame, and also Tim Weiser, a former baseball player for the Cougars, but also a really successful career after graduation and after leaving Barton and Emporia State as he finished up his time as the Deputy Commissioner for the Big 12 Conference, retiring in the 2024 month of December. So Tim Weiser joining us here. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
What a performance for you just in your time at Barton, but also your time afterwards. And like I asked most of them, what was your initial reaction? I know you've been inducted to the Great Bend High School Hall of Fame, but what was your initial reaction when you found out you were inducted into the Barton Sports Hall of Fame?
I was just so surprised and humbled at the same time when I got the call from Trevor. I was, this is a special place for me. Great Bend has always been home, and I had some great memories here. In many ways, this is where the journey started for me, and it seemed kind of appropriate that it would come to an end in the same place that it started. So I was very thankful for it. It gave me a chance to get back, and I've seen people today that I haven't seen since I left Great Bend. So that in and of itself is a good reason to be back, and very, very thankful to the athletic director and president and the selection committee for this opportunity.
Well, you mentioned being a Great Bend guy. Was it an easy decision for you to come out and play baseball for Barton? What was that decision like?
No, it was real easy. My sisters were really the first in our family, and they were the first cheerleading in the first cheerleading group out here. And so I, of course, followed Barton from when they were there, and I really did not have, let's just say, a whole lot of motivation for the academic side of life. I was more interested in playing baseball, and to have a chance to play it here and stay at home was a perfect thing for me. Frankly, I was not ready as a freshman to leave Great Bend. I would not have done well somewhere else, so I was glad I had the chance to be here.
After you got done with Emporia State, did you know you wanted to get into sports administration? What was that process?
So yeah, it was interesting because my real goal was to be an academic advisor for student athletes, just simply because of what I went through and how I eventually figured out the importance of a degree and what that could do for me. And so I started out with that as kind of my singular goal, and luckily got a job at Wichita State doing that very thing. And as time went on, there were a couple of changes with the athletic director there, and a guy by the name of Lou Perkins, who later would go on to be the AD at KU, came in and said, hey, I know you're doing academics, but we got to have you doing compliance and rules. Both of our football and basketball teams were on probation, and so we had a number of issues on that side, and I, of course, knew nothing about it. Division I rules. I was a NAIA guy. So it was a quick crash course over the next few months to figure out what the rules were and how they worked, and that just kind of continued to open up doors to get into fundraising and all of this at Wichita State. And then I had a chance to become the athletic director at a small school in Tennessee by the name of Austin Peay. And I really not sure that I knew what that was all about. Frankly, I can't say that I ever grew up wanting to be an athletic director, but when that call came and I went and interviewed, it just kind of felt like, yeah, let's give this a try. And as I was telling a group of guys earlier, for the first 3 months, I thought I had made the biggest mistake in my life professionally. And so I was thinking, yep, need to get back to Kansas, get back to Wichita State. And thankfully, I had a president at Austin Peay that was really good to work for, and kind of got the rhythm going and started to figure out the job. And from there, things just kind of fell into place. I was very blessed and very fortunate to have the opportunities that I did.
Before you went to the Big 12, and we'll talk about that in here in a second, you spent 7 years as the athletic director for Kansas State. And I guess my simple question would be, what's it like being an athletic director over an entire university? Because, you think about a fan base of any Division I university, but even like K-State, and you grew up in Kansas, you know how fans are about programs and wanting to see them succeed. What's it like being in charge of an entire athletic department of that magnitude?
Well, a bit overwhelming. Thankfully, I had kind of moved up in the athletic director's jobs, and it gradually got bigger and bigger and bigger, and so I was somewhat prepared for it, and I, of course, was excited to have a chance to come back home and be around family and friends. But, you know, that job is a tough job. It's way tougher now than it was then, but you're essentially taking the blame for a lot of other people's decisions, and in large part 18, 19, 20-year-olds making decisions aren't always going to come out the way you want. And, you know, I realized early on that it was being able to stand up and take responsibility when either as coaches we made a mistake, as student athletes we made a mistake, and they could be very lonely jobs at times, but I can still remember the football game in Kansas City in which we beat Oklahoma, and that will forever be one of the greatest memories that I ever had, because nobody gave us a chance. And to watch Darren Sproles and El Roberson do what they did to Oklahoma was really a lot of fun.
Tim Weiser, one of the new inductees to the Hall of Fame at Barton, joining us here at halftime. After that stint at K-State, you go on to be the deputy commissioner for the Big 12 from 2008 until your retirement last December. What was your favorite part being a part of the Big 12 conference in that position?
Well, you know, it was such a different pace. I tell people it was the difference between flying at 4,000 feet and 40,000 feet. You know, things could be a little more deliberate there. You didn't have the rapid fire issues that you do on campus, whether it's issues with student athlete eligibility or behavior issues. You know, those things would come in and come at you so fast. In a conference office, you're somewhat removed from that day-to-day grind, and it allowed you to kind of think a little bit bigger picture and see things from a wider perspective. And thankfully, it was the right move for me. I think I had a guy tell me when I took that job, congratulations, you've just added 10 years onto your life. And frankly, I think he was right, because that job was way less stressful, way less difficult than being an athletic director at a place like Kansas State or Kansas, or any of these jobs now are so complicated and complex that my heart goes out to the people in those jobs, because they're very challenging right now.
Well, before we let you go, I know Ray Bichard was your presenter here tonight. Good to see him back in Great Bend, and even brought up stories with Alan Clark, Barton women's head coach, and you guys were here on campus at the same time in the late 1970s. Can you tell us any good stories, either involving Coach Clark or Ray Bichard?
So Ray referenced this a little bit, but you know, there were a few things that I felt like I was pretty good at. Throwing a baseball was one of them. Shooting a gun, I love to hunt. In fact, spent more times out the bottom than I should have when I would be on my way to class. And playing ping pong. We played a lot of ping pong, and Ray and I were pretty competitive on it, but we enjoyed our time, and Ray was very good. But, you know, as I reminded him, he was not good enough, and I wasn't the best, because there were other kids out here that could be considered the campus champion. But you learn a lot about people in those competitive roles, and I had no idea what my future looked like. Ray didn't either, and for us to have had the ride that we did is just, I think it's proof positive for anybody that's wondering about their child and whether it's going to turn out okay. Let me just tell you, for it to have turned out the way it did for Ray and I, it'll happen for anybody.
They just need to buy him a ping pong table, I guess.
That's right.
It'll be successful.
Right.
Hey, Tim, appreciate the time and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That is Tim Weiser, one of the inductees to the 2025 Barton Hall of Fame class. Halftime has Dodge City leading the Cougars 41-35. Back with more of the Next Tech halftime show after this on B104.3 The Point.